Hello everybody and welcome back to Snetterton and welcome back to round 3 of the Ferrari Challenge UK. Day 2 here at Snetterton. We saw mixed conditions yesterday and I'm afraid further mixed conditions today. It was nice and sunny in the early stages of this morning, nice and sunny in the early stages of yesterday, and obviously we'll cut to the live shots now. You can see our look has, it hasn't really stayed, has it? Spots of rain on the camera lens, the clouds have come in, the cloud base has lowered. But as we say here on the Snetterton 300 layout for the second race of the weekend, round number 6 for Ferrari Challenge Trofeo Pirelli UK 2024. As the weather has come in, the air temperature has dropped, the track temperature has dropped, the wind has picked up very slightly. Cars are currently out there on their first couple of installation laps. What they can do is go out and do one full lap, run through the pit lane, maybe another. But obviously with the spots of rain, the questionable tyre choice is now back to whether it is slicks or wet. But what we can do is have a brief look as to how qualifying went earlier on this morning. So thankfully it was a nice and dry session this morning. Pranav Vangala really the first sort of trendsetter. He was out there very, very quickly indeed. So too were the rest of the Trofeo Pirelli entrants. Gilbert Yates had a very strong start to this session. Harmandra Pillai as well, pushing very hard in the early stages of the race. Caught out at Palmer's yesterday. Didn't affect his confidence though, did it? Car number 24 or 74, that means Stephen Dobson, Dick Lovett's Swindon entry. He was pushing very hard in Copa-Shell. So too was Peter Hunter. He wants to set himself up for a good race too of the weekend. However, it was Mike Dewhurst that eventually took top honours in qualifying and takes pole position in Copa-Shell. Darren Howell was pushing very hard. We saw that car all sorts of crossed up throughout the session, but expertly brought back under his spell. Darren Howell continued just to chip away at his time. Pranav Vangala pushing so hard, trying to edge his way through some traffic. Robert Rees in this case, and just slightly too deep on the brakes, but drivers definitely not lacking in confidence or speed this morning in the second qualifying session of the weekend. Gary Redman, it was all eyes on him throughout the session. Eventually it was Gilbert Yates that took overall pole position, and what a solid morning it was from him, continuing to chip away at the time. Those are the live pictures. The grid will start to form very shortly indeed. But qualifying this morning, it was very close at points. The pole margin, I think at one point, was 2 1/1000ths of a second. That's how close it was. On a 3-mile circuit, it shows that we are in store for a brilliant race, potentially with some mixed conditions. Cars are out there, windscreen wipers are on. However, the slick tyres, the Pirelli slick tyres, are strapped on to all of the cars, but the trolleys with the Pirelli wet tyres are being readied. You can see them just working their way up the pit lane. A number of the teams, again, keeping a close eye on the skies, a close eye on their weather radars, and deciding whether it is time to swap the cars over. At the moment, I would say it is going to be dry conditions, but that can very quickly change. We have spoken to a driver recently, though. That is our reigning champion, Andrew Morrow, and we've just asked how Ferrari Challenge has helped him develop as a driver.
"2022 was my first time ever sitting in a race car. I think it was actually here at Oulton Park back in May 22 for the first round, and turning up on the Friday morning going, right, what's this all about? And we're thrown in the deep end and out in the track, and did well that weekend, so it was good. So from I was no age, I was always encouraged at home, out in quads, buggies, anything with an engine, go-karts round the farm just for a bit of fun, nothing competitive. And my dad was a big petrol head too, so he had a few cars, and that's where really, I suppose, the Ferrari interest came. And then the opportunity came up to do my Ready to Race course to get my licence through Charles Hurst and Ferrari in UK here, and I went to Brands Hatch to do that, and that's where the journey started. My first year was fantastic. I never thought it was going to go as good as it did. First round here in Oulton Park, we got 2 5th positions, which I was ecstatic with. But never did I think I'd go to the next round at Snetterton and get my first podium, never mind my first win. So it really just took off from there. And then first season, I managed to finish 2nd overall, and it was close at the end, but lucky just got me in the last round at Silverstone. And then last year I won it overall, so it was 2 good years. Last weekend we were out in Mugello for the first round in the 296, and there were 77 cars in total, so the grid was just huge. Trying to find place to qualify, go out and practice, get a gap, but also at the race start, just try and keep out of trouble is a huge challenge. But it's a good challenge, and it keeps pushing you on, and you've got to keep the head down and keep focused. Sitting on the grid with some of these guys is just a bit surreal. You know, you're thinking 2 years ago I haven't sat in the car, and these guys have raced all their life, but it's a great experience and some really good drivers involved. We felt this year going to do Europe, as much as it's pushing us as a driver and where we want to be, just it doesn't have that same family feel, so we wanted to come along and do some of the rounds here just to still be part of the whole Ferrari Challenge UK family. For me, I've loved it, and it's really brought my driving skills on, and hopefully we'll continue to progress through the European Series as well.
So great to hear from Andrew Morrow. Of course, it was here at Snetterton 2 years ago. As he mentioned, he got his first win, his first podium at the same time. So surely all momentum is with Andrew Morrow, and you'd think so after winning yesterday as well. It was such a close fought race yesterday. Gilbert Yates and Andrew Morrow consistently fighting their way around all 3 miles of the Snetterton 300 circuit, and you've got to expect something of the same today. So Gilbert Yates is lining up on pole position, and then it will be Andrew Morrow alongside. But we saw the race ebb and flow yesterday, not only between those top 2, but also down in Capershell as well. Robert Rees got a lightning start from 5th in class, which was around about, I think, 9th on the grid. All of a sudden, with a brilliant start, before we even got to Sector 1, we saw Robert Rees in the lead of the class. Eventually, it wasn't quite enough, and he just started to fall away, allowing Mike Dewhurst to come through and win that race with a poor start as well. To his own admission, he said he was just in the wrong gear, but fought so valiantly, so hard, and produced some fabulous racing throughout yesterday's race 1. The sky has cleared, the clouds have slowly started to thin out. It's all getting a bit lighter out there, so the, I think, pre-race 2 scare of some rain coming in may have just temporarily been halted. We still can't rule it out, but the grid is becoming an ever busier place. We can see there's just another couple of cars, maybe, I think that's everybody on the grid now. Robert Rees working his way into position, but there's all the Ferrari staff and all of the driver coaches as well that are here. No matter whether you're in Trofeo Pirelli or Capershell, the difference, the way you can tell the difference between what class the cars are in. If they've got a red windscreen header, that means they are in Trofeo Pirelli. They're usually the more experienced drivers. Capershell, the yellow windscreen headers, usually those ones newer to motorsport. But we can go and get a closer look at the cars down on the grid with Mark Rowell and Amanda Stratton.
Well, thank you very much, Jack. Yes, as you mentioned earlier, the conditions, Mark, are changing rapidly. I've just had to get a hat on because I think we are going to have a few spots of rain. What do you think?
Well, it was only a few moments ago. We had clear blue skies, then the clouds came over, those spits of rain just as the drivers were heading out onto the grid. And here we are again now. Typical UK weather. It's summer, blue skies again.
Exactly. Who knows? Now, look, we've had a mixed bag in qualifying, haven't you? I think you're going to move here and talk to Darren Howell. If you want to go off, he was a driver who had mixed fortunes in qualifying. We saw him in the pits for a while. Perhaps Mark can find out what was going on.
Darren, we had a quick chat over the lunch break to you, but for those, of course, that weren't listening to our private conversation, it's been a difficult season so far. You've had luck. It's largely been bad luck.
Yeah, that's correct. So, but hopefully today, this race will change things. That's the plan.
Few spits of rain as you're heading out onto circuit. Does that unsettle the nerves a bit?
No, not at all. It's nothing to worry about.
And those problems that you had, which meant that you didn't get out for the full amount of qualifying, ever looking for positives, it does mean that you're starting this race on a brand new set of sticker Pirelli tyres, whereas all the other drivers will have qualified on theirs.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So, no, hopefully be an advantage later on in the race.
Let's hope so. Good luck.
Thank you.
There we go. So there's Darren Howell. I think Amanda has managed to catch up with somebody. She's caught up with our pole sitter in Capershell.
I have indeed, yes. Gary Redmond, the guy who I think has probably got the best helmet on the grid. Gary, love your helmet, by the way. But listen, I didn't get a chance to talk to you after qualifying. Congratulations on your second pole of the weekend. The big question, can you now make it a win?
Yeah, I'm going to do...
That's in my hands. I'm hoping so. All I've got to do is continue to do what I did in qualifying and, yeah, hopefully bring it home.
Now, what do you think of these conditions? It's obviously a bit windier than it was earlier on. We've had a few spots of rains. Do you know anything about what we can expect?
Yeah, I think I don't think there's going to be much rain. A few spots aren't going to hurt. You can feel the wind on the back the back straight, you feel the crosswind. But I think the sun's going to shine for us, and we're going to have a clean, dry race.
Well, listen, Gary, very best of luck, and you can just see that absolutely awesome helmet that he's got there. Mark, where are you?
I've come up towards the front of the grid to grab a quick word with Pranav Vangala, who's having his first season in Ferrari Challenge UK. Pranav, well done, congratulations, second row of the grid, getting quicker all of the time.
Thanks, yeah, I think it's really exciting to be here as always. Snetterton is a technical and challenging track. You know, this is only my second time here, the first being a test day in the midst of wintry February. So very different, and we've had all the seasons this one weekend, so excited to see what the race holds today.
You look at the times that you were doing at the beginning of the weekend compared to the times that you did in qualifying, you're chipping away all of the time.
Yeah, just doing my best to keep my head down, you know, minimize mistakes and really just drive sort of incremental improvement where I can. I think it just comes with more seat time, and there's a lot of folks here on the grid who are incredibly experienced, so great to be able to be part of a grid alongside them.
Can you hang on to the back of Gilbert and Andrew in the race?
You know, I'm not going to say no just because I want to give it my best shot, but I think the race itself will prove whether that's true or not, but I'm going to do my best.
Good luck, very well done indeed. I think Amanda has now worked her way all the way to the front of the grid to catch up with another member of the Ferrari family.
I certainly have, yes, here at the front of the grid. Lilo Wadu, you are an official Ferrari driver. I am incredibly proud to be talking to her because she's also the first female official factory driver, and you're so young.
Yes, hello everyone. Yeah, it's now since 2 years I am with Ferrari, and it's a really great adventure for the moment. We did a very good job last year and this year, so we will see. And I'm very happy to be here with the Ferrari Challenge to support us.
Now, you've got a big job this weekend, haven't you? Because you're also the driver representative up in the race control, keeping an eye on this rowdy bunch. What's it like having the shoe on the other foot?
Yeah, for sure, I am here for that, but I really like the racers. They are really keen, for sure, and with a very good fight, so it's nice.
And you're busy racing in Super GT this season as well. How's it going?
It's going very well for the moment. We did a good top 10 the last 2 races, and yeah, honestly, it's good. We will see for the end of the season, and I hope we will do a podium.
Well, listen, you are also the first female winner in a World Endurance race. I very much wish you luck for the future. What's the next race for you?
Thank you. The next race is IMSA LMP2 in Watkins Glen in 2 weeks.
Well, I hope the weather's a little bit better than we've given you here in Snetterton. This isn't the finest, but coming from Le Mans area, you're familiar with these changeable conditions.
Yeah, for sure, it's like a normal life for me now, the changement of weather, and today it's on the limit, so we will see. But for sure, I know well.
Lilo, thank you so much for talking to us. Well, yesterday in the race, we saw a titanic battle between Andrew Morrow and Gilbert Yates. Now, Gilbert has put his car on pole for the second time this weekend. He has been consistently quick. Maybe this is the race that he is going to take the spoils. Adam, Mark, back to you. Jack, Mark, back to you.
Thank you so much, Amanda. Yeah, so it's all eyes Gilbert Yates, really, because over this weekend, Gilbert has looked the quicker driver in qualifying and in the first phases of the race yesterday. But of course, what happened in the latter stages, Andrew Morrow's tyres maybe fared slightly better, or that the car was set up just to be slightly quicker in that final half of the race. And what that meant was Andrew Morrow came over the line, took the win, took max points. And also, whilst he didn't put it on pole yesterday, he's not put it on pole today. The championship has got slightly closer again. It's only been extending, and we're over halfway through the season now, in theory, Mark. So that means that the championship has really got to be something that drivers think about, score some of those valuable points.
Yeah. We reached the halfway point at the end of yesterday's race, but because points are available, an extra point for pole position in qualifying, yeah, there's now less points available at this point of the season than have already been scored. Not by much, only by a point or so. So it's all still to play for. And yeah, you look at the relative pace of Andrew Morrow and Gilbert Yates, whether it be at Brands Hatch, whether it be here at Snetterton, or of course the previous round was at Alton Park. There's been very little to choose between them. And it's the same in Copa-Shell in reality. Robert Rees, Mike Dewhurst, they've all been very similar. In terms of the championship, Andrew Morrow continues to lead the way. Just 4 points separate Andrew Morrow from Gilbert Yates, with Pranav Vangala a further 4 points back from that. Tom Fleming, who, of course, raced at Brands Hatch and took 2 wins, but isn't present this weekend and hasn't appeared since, is there in 4th place on the same amount of points as Hemandra Pillai, who is also on 35 championship points. John Dillon and AJ Litt, both absentees from this weekend, are 6th and 7th respectively in terms of Trofeo Pirelli. Then as we look at Copa Shell, as the cars are about to head off on their final formation lap, Robert Rees has a 15-point lead from double race winner back-to-back Mike Dewhurst, who's 2nd in Copa Shell. Peter Hunter there in 3rd, but jointly on the same points as Gary Redman, who starts this race, remember, from Copa Shell pole. Steve Dobson and Darren Howell are 5th and 6th respectively. So the cars heading off on their final formation lap, and we should, Jack, be able to guide you through the grid.
Yeah, we will indeed, and the sun has come out, so the slick tyres will just be working their way up to temperature, and they'll be weaving left and right to get as much temperature in the Pirellis as possible. Gilbert Yates lines up on pole position, a 1:52.302 set in qualifying, alongside his Charles Hurst teammate Andrew Morrow. The second row of the grid is made up of HR Owens, Pranav Vangala and Hemandra Pillai from Jardine Colchester, lining up on row number 2. Row 3 will house our Copa Shell pole sitter Gary Redman from Great Ball Nottingham, alongside Dick Lovett Swindon's Robert Rees. And on row 4 of the grid, starting in 7th place, is Mike Dewhurst. Alongside him, he's got Peter Hunter from Stratstone, Manchester. And lining up on what will be the 5th and final row of the grid, it's Steve Dobson from Dick Lovett Swindon. And the JCT 600 Leeds entry, it's Darren Howell starting in 10th place. So whilst we've got qualifying all out of the way, we've got a brief insight onto how these drivers will slowly start to come together throughout the race, and battles that we may think will form. I've got a feeling there's still going to be some surprises out there.
Yeah, I mean, the one good thing is that those ominous clouds and those few spits of rain had disappeared and have long been forgotten. They've disappeared into the distance. Even though we had those few spits of rain and wet tyres were being readied, it never looked as though it was anything other than a slick tyre that would be utilised for this race. So all of the cars on their controlled Pirelli slick tyres, for which they're all limited to 2 sets over the course of the weekend. Now, most of the drivers would have utilised them during qualifying. We know the car off the back of the grid, which is Darren Howell, didn't utilise his slick tyres in qualifying, so he is coming into this on a brand new set of slick tyres, where everyone else has probably got something like maybe 10 or 12 laps on their tyres from the amount of rolls of the dice that they had over the course of qualifying. So we'll wait and see. So the cars are on their final formation lap. They are heading through the bomb hole and up towards Coram. We are about to get ready for the 6th race of the 2024 Ferrari Challenge UK. So the lights are extinguished on the safety car, neat 2x2 order. The safety car will peel its way right into the pit lane, and we're about to unleash the challenge competitors. 670 brake horsepower per car in these 488 Evo Spec cars. The red car with the Dayglow yellow flashes is the pole sitter, which is Gilbert Yates. The number 1 car that sits alongside him is the reigning champion Andrew Morrow, and it's the green car of Pranav Vangala and the pink car of Hemandra Pillai that line up on the 2nd row of the grid. The lights are on the gantry, half an hour plus 1 extra lap, and we get round 6 of the championship underway. And as they head up towards Ritchie's for the first time, Gilbert Yates has the all-important inside line and should go through to pick up the lead of the race, with Andrew Morrow in 2nd place, Pranav Vangala in 3rd, Hemandra Pillai in 4th, and up to the early lead in Copa Shell, it's the blue car of Robert Rees again, who's had another blistering start, just like yesterday.
Yeah, brilliant start from Robert Rees. He was fighting away with Hemandra Pillai, but all the way around the outside. Darren Howell, what an amazing start he's had, of course, on those fresh sticker Pirelli tyres. He's immediately fighting away with Peter Hunter. Slight contact between the pair of them. That will be for 2nd place in Copa Shell. Darren Howell on an absolute charge from the very back row of the grid. On the exit of Palmer, they draw absolutely level. It will be Darren Howell on the extreme left-hand side of the circuit, Peter Hunter on the extreme right, but the inside will go the way of Darren Howell up into 2nd place from 10th.
You see just deranged wing mirrors a little bit as they made a very slight amount of contact between the pair of them, but Darren Howell, yeah, on those brand new tyres that he didn't utilise in qualifying, is out of the blocks quickly here and is ahead of Peter Hunter and Gary Redman, the pole sitter in Copa Shell, who's dropped to something like 4th in Copa Shell. He's got Mike Dewhurst not that far behind him. So they start to stretch their legs out of Oggies and up towards Williams, one of the most important corners on the circuit. Get quickly out of Williams, carry all of that speed along the Bentley Straight. So for Darren Howell, he will try and break the toe on Peter Hunter, who's trying to break the toe on Gary Redman, who's looking to try and get the overlap and sneak up the inside. The number 22 draws himself alongside the Stratstone Manchester car. Should have the inside line knowing to get up towards Brundle, and then it'll give him the outside line when to get towards Nelson. And Gary Redman has made it through. He is through and ahead of the silver number 82 car of Peter Hunter.
Yeah, Yeah, Gary Redmond doing what he can to, I think, minimise the damage of the first lap, and Peter Hunter spins through 180 degrees, avoided well by one of the cars coming towards him. That would have been Mike Dewhurst. I think you spotted something there, Mark, on Peter Hunter's car.
I'm not sure whether he got a puncture on the left rear, maybe. It just looked as though, as he turned in, that side of the car just bobbed down a little bit. So I think he may well have picked up a puncture, possibly as a result of the contact. Let's just have another quick look at it. He turns into the corner, and I think that tyre deflates as soon as he turns in. It does, doesn't it?
Yeah, it looks like the tyre isn't quite gripping as much as Peter Hunter would expect. So through 180 degrees he will go. However, it is still Darren Howell now fighting away with the number 22 machine of Gary Redmond. Of course, Gary started on pole position in Copa-Shell, and now he's really bringing the fight to Darren Howell, who goes deep on the brakes. That opens the door for Gary Redmond. Through he goes up into second place. Now Darren Howell on those fresh tyres. He just needs to make sure he gets everything back together and can start fighting forward and see whether he can pick the pocket of Gary Redmond once again.
And this is all playing beautifully into the hands of the early Copa-Shell leader, Robert Rees, who at the wheel of the blue number 8 car is starting to pull away and has already built a little bit of a buffer in Copa-Shell of, what, about 2.5 seconds between himself and the chasing pack that lies behind. So out of Agostini goes Gary Redmond. Darren Howell still trying to shadow him as best he can. Mike Dewhurst is in the yellow car that's just behind this little pair. And all of this, as we say, just allows Robert Rees to edge away in the lead of Copa-Shell. He was leading in the early stages of yesterday's race, wasn't he, in Copa-Shell, but did get caught towards the end, and his car was another one of those again that I think just the way the car was set up and the way they'd utilised their tyres, he just saw a little bit more drop-off. So I think it's probably the right thing for Robert Rees to crack on with it now, maybe knowing that his car might just fade away a little bit compared to others as the race wears on.
Yeah, one thing to also bear in mind, slightly cooler temperatures today. That could help the tyres just hang on that little bit longer, all running a fabulous Pirelli tyre, and they do provide excellent levels of grip, but it's just when you push them to the absolute edge, which a lot of the drivers will be doing, they will get put through their paces throughout the 30 minutes plus one lap. But at the moment, Darren Howell not quite catching Gary Redmond as much as I thought he would be. If anything, I would say he's almost falling into the clutches of Mike Dewhurst now.
Yeah, I'd agree at the moment. Yeah, he's not able to match the pace of Gary Redmond, and we'll try and keep an eye on what the gap is between himself and Mike Dewhurst. Over the start-finish line comes our race leader, Gilbert Yates, leading away by just over 0.8 of a second from Andrew Morrow. And Gilbert Yates has just set the fastest lap of the race we've seen so far on the first of the flying laps, 1 minute 53.974. Both himself and Andrew Morrow in the 1 minute 52s, weren't they, in qualifying? And then we've got a good fight going on for third and fourth at the moment. Pranav Vangala under enormous pressure from Hamandra Pillai in the pink car that sits behind, and then they've got the Copa-Shell race leader, Robert Rees, not far behind either.
Yeah, they can't really afford to battle too much, can they? Because Robert Rees, whilst it won't be for championship points, he will still want bragging rights of getting onto the outright podium, I'm sure. So Robert Rees, he might not want to risk his class lead at the moment, but with Hamandra Pillai and Pranav Vangala fighting away they are, he might not really have a choice in that matter. So working their way through Agostini, Pranav Vangala still ahead of Hamandra Pillai, but all Hamandra needs to do is just keep in those rear view mirrors of Pranav Vangala. We've still got 25 minutes plus one lap to go, so it can be a waiting game for Hamandra. He's under no pressure to make that move just as of yet. What he can do is assess Pranav Vangala and decide exactly where he wants to go for that move.
Yeah, just work out where you might have an advantage, or where you're a bit more confident on the brakes, or able to carry a bit more speed through one part of the circuit relative to the driver that you're trying to hunt down. So a lot of this is learning all of the time. So here up towards the braking area for Brundle and Nelson, Pranav Vangala still under pressure from Hamandra Pillai. And as the cars still continue to squirm around under braking through Brundle and Nelson, Robert Rees has got the best seat in the house, isn't he? The Copa-Shell race leader, sitting there in 5th place overall. He'll be able to see these two ahead of him battling, and I think he is edging up, isn't he, towards the coattails of them.
Yeah, absolutely. The gap last time through from Robert Rees to Hamandra Pillai was 1.1 seconds. I'd say that's ebbed and flowed, if anything, but it has got closer, absolutely. So out of the final corner at Maurice, on towards the centre straight goes Pranav Vangala and Hamandra Pillai. Leaders back over the line. Gilbert Yates still leading Andrew Morrow. Another fastest lap of the race goes the way of Gilbert Yates, a 1 minute 53.339, extending his lead margin up to 1.1 seconds. What of Robert Rees? Is he closer? No, he's fallen away just a little bit on this lap. Maybe he's realised that he is gaining, and by the time he does catch them, all he's going to do is cost himself some time.
Yeah, and he's doing the right thing, Robert Rees. You know, if he starts to get too close to those cars battling ahead, he will get slowed up by them. He's eased his pace a little bit and has now managed to still pull away from Gary Redmond, who lies second in Copa-Shell. You can tell the different classes, so Trofeo Pirelli cars have the red windscreen headers. That's the more experienced drivers. If you're running Copa Shell, it's a yellow windscreen header, and those for the drivers with less experience. But it is a brilliant battle for the final overall podium spot. Long way to go, and Hemandra Pillai's into the back of Pranav Vangala. There was small contact made. Pranav Vangala spins through 180 degrees. Robert Rees sneaks through and past both and puts himself onto the overall podium. Hemandra Pillai continues. Pranav Vangala gets going, pointing in the right direction. And I almost think Hemandra Pillai there was trying to make sure that he allowed places to settle back down as they were, that he didn't gain an advantage as a result of that unfortunate contact.
Now, I don't know whether that's still what he's trying to do, because obviously he's ever the sportsman, Hemandra Pillai. He's wanting to let Pranav maybe not back through, but back to a point where they can resume their battle. But in doing that, Robert Rees naturally has gone through. Gary Redman is there. Let's have a look back as to exactly what happened. Both cars so late on the brakes, and Hemandra Pillai maybe not accounting for the extra speed that he will have, sat in the aerodynamic assistance of Pranav Vangala, and both of them just making sure they don't just dive back onto the racing line. An unfortunate incident, but I don't think that was malicious at all from Hemandra Pillai. It was just good, hard racing with a small mistake. Yeah, it's a very small mistake and just made the lightest of contacts, and you could tell that he was definitely on the brakes all the way before the contact, because you could see those brake discs were glowing cherry red as he was trying to get the car anchored up and avoid the inevitable. So that now means that Robert Rees, who leads Copa Shell, is up to 3rd place overall in the race. It also means, Jack, that he's now in that fantastic position of having some Trofeo Pirelli cars behind him. So that really does allow him to control Copa Shell for the rest of the race, ideally. Yeah, what he wants to do at this point is really up to him. Does he want to just continue to pull away? He does have that buffer of 2 cars behind him, and I think more importantly, Darren Howell is now fighting away with Mike Dewhurst, so that draws those 2 away. It's all eyes Gary Redman on what he wants to do, because he has slowly caught up to Pranav Vangala following the incident, but Mike Dewhurst now on the inside up towards the Wilson's hairpin, has a little look up the inside. That forces the mistake from Darren Howell. He gives him racing room and a little bit more on the exit. They almost draw level, almost straight bait, but Darren Howell, whether it was defensive or attacking, he's doing a brilliant job just to keep this race as close as it currently is. Mike Dewhurst all the way around the outside, though, at Palmer. That's no easy move to make, is it? No, not at all, and he was absolutely committed to that move. Now Darren Howell dives up the inside and sneaks his way back through and ahead of Mike Dewhurst. Needs to be careful that he doesn't run wide on the exit of the corner, otherwise Mike Dewhurst would have the opportunity to sneak back at Hamilton. So Darren Howell has covered that one off. They flick their way through the left-hander at Hamilton and then head into the braking area for Oggies, which offers up some possibilities, but Mike Dewhurst for the moment is content to sit behind the man he's just taken the place from and then lost it to again immediately. And now Mike Dewhurst, good exit out of this corner, would give him the opportunity to try something down in towards Brundle and Nelson. He's getting closer, Jack. Is he close enough? Yeah, we'll wait and see, but that's brilliant racing between the pair of them. Mike Dewhurst with a very committed move all the way around the outside. The camber of the circuit falls away from you, so he will have been fighting with the controls and did manage to make it work, but Darren Howell dived his way up the inside at Agostini, as we saw. They worked their way through Brundle and Nelson absolutely together. Then it's into the bum hole. Back over the line goes Gilbert Yates and Andrew Morrow. 1.2 seconds turns into 1.2 seconds again. Another fastest lap of the race, however, from Gilbert Yates, 1:53.305. All the way through Coram. Darren Howell just wobbling a little bit on turning, I think asking a lot of those Pirelli tyres. However, closing up massively on the brakes is Mike Dewhurst, and Robert Rees, he's just lost out to Hemandra Pillai, but he didn't want to wait around to try and get that back, did he, into turn 1? No, not at all. So Hemandra Pillai through and ahead of Robert Rees, so that's put Hemandra up into an overall podium. He hasn't had one so far this season, and then I think we've also got further down through the order Darren Howell and Mike Dewhurst in full attack mode with each other, heading up towards Ritchie's corner. I think there might have been a shuffle for order there. The other news that I can bring you is that there is a drive-through penalty for car number 82, Peter Hunter, for causing contact on lap number 1. So the officials have had a look at that. They have deemed that Peter Hunter is the culprit. He's got a drive-through penalty. Not exactly what Peter Hunter will have wanted, and now we see Pranav Vangala late on the brakes, dives his way up the inside of Robert Rees. Robert Rees wise to the move, then looks for the cutback, but the outside line does indeed go the way of Pranav Vangala, meaning he just jump on the throttle slightly earlier and keeps hold of, or manages to get back into 4th place. While it is a move for overall position, class position is not affected. No, not at all. They still score the same amount of championship points, regardless of those overtakes just having taken place. Now, I think the key thing there for Robert Rees was to make sure that he allowed those Trofeo Pirelli cars through without losing any time himself, and I think he tried to minimise the amount of time he lost letting them through, because he wants to keep that little bit of daylight he's got between himself leading Copa Shell and then Gary Redman, who sits behind. You just see his
grey car with the orange flashes in the background of the shot, whilst the number 8 car of Robert Rees still continues to lead Copa-Shell.
Yeah, so Gary Redman looming large, I guess in the distance. He's not quite close enough yet for Robert Rees really to consider. If you were Robert Rees now, you'd try or do your very best to sit on the tail of Pranav Bangala, get the aerodynamic assistance, and just show that you mean no threat. You just want to work together and try and work away. And normally 2 cars together can be faster than 1 on its own. So we'll see what Robert Rees can do. Car number 29 being warned of track limits. That's Pranav Bangala at turn 3. So he's clearly pushing hard, trying to minimise that damage again from the small incident earlier on. Gilbert Yates back over the line that time. Didn't go quicker than anybody else, or didn't go outright quicker once again, but the lead margin up to 1.4 seconds now. He's pulling away in the lead of the race. And I think, yeah, Darren Howell, he's trying to stick with Mike Dewhurst, having lost that position a few laps ago, but he's not quite doing it as of yet.
Yeah, I'm trying to think when we started to see Gilbert Yates struggling a little bit with his tyres yesterday. It was when we got to about 10 minutes to go, probably. So another 5 or 6 minutes, then we'll start to understand as to whether they've tweaked either the driving style of Gilbert Yates for this particular race, or whether they've changed the setup, or maybe even adjusted tyre pressures in it to try and keep the car in the sweet spot for longer. For the moment, though, he's more than holding his own, isn't he, over Andrew Morrow? Yeah. But the gap was about 1.5 seconds yesterday when it started to decline.
Yeah, so we'll see what both Gilbert Yates and Andrew Morrow can do about negotiating what they did yesterday in race 2 today. Through the pit lane now comes Peter Hunter. He will return to the circuit and have served that drive-through penalty. There was a Pirelli representative in the pit lane, just I think getting an updated track temperature, figuring out how the road is being affected throughout this race and how that is going to evolve, or maybe provide more grip, less grip, whatever it may be. But Peter Hunter now returns to the circuit. I did notice as well on Robert Rees's car, he's got a wing mirror slightly askew from where it started. Darren Howell still just about keeping touch with Mike Dewhurst. He's within a second as they broke the beam, within a second through sector 2, and then on the brakes through Brundle, through Nelson goes Mike Dewhurst, bouncing over the curbs. You've got to be careful of the big sausage curb on the run through Nelson, but narrowly avoided by the pair of them. Through the bomb hole goes Darren Howell, still chasing Mike Dewhurst, just doing what he can, I think, to again stay within a distance to make Mike Dewhurst maybe slightly nervy of a mistake, because any mistake he will make, Darren Howell is still within striking distance.
We're talking about the Pirelli representative in the pit lane. Well, yeah, Pirelli supply the controlled tyres to everybody. They're all bar-coded, so you're allowed 2 over the weekend. The Pirelli will always double-check what the surface temperature is on the outer, the inner and the middle sections of the tyres. They'll also double-check the tyre pressures on each occasion. And as you were suggesting there, that was Jonathan Wells, who's putting a temperature probe into the track so they can understand what the track temperature is as well. So there's a lot of technical data that goes into just making sure Pirelli, as they always do, continue to provide the best quality service to their customers.
Yeah, absolutely so, and it's allowing us to see some great racing, not only in this race, but we saw it yesterday and we're being treated to more today. Gilbert Yates over the line, extended that lead margin ever further, 1.757 of a second, mainly because another fastest lap of the race, a 1 minute 53.220. We said we wonder if his tyres are going off. By the looks of it, absolutely not. The Pirellis are still serving him so well.
They certainly are, and further down through the order, Mike Dewhurst is still pressing on. He is lying 3rd in Copa-Shell. Our overall race leader, though, is just turning his way now for the 8th time already, would you believe, round through the bomb hole and making sure that he stays within the confines of the circuit so he can run out to the red and white curb, but not beyond that. Gilbert Yates, and for the moment, yeah, he's just keeping Andrew Morrow at arm's distance, isn't he? The lead advantage has just crept up from 1.4 to 1.7 seconds over the course of the last few laps, and it looks like it's probably going to come out further this time through. Might come out to something like 2.2 seconds possibly as they go over the start-finish line. 2.1 seconds is the gap between the pair of them. So as far as Gilbert Yates is concerned, still going the right way.
Yeah, managing the gap. He's not pulling away as much as he can. I'm sure he's not pushing to the absolute limit. He's just managing that gap and creeping it up every time, every opportunity he can. You can see the gap. Lap 6 from 1.4 to lap 7's 1.7, and now, as you say, 2.070 of a second. So it is coming up by a rate of around about 0.3 a lap. So we will see what Gilbert Yates can do about continuing that trend over the final 14 minutes plus that extra lap. That extra lap could be so crucial. We saw it with how quick the drop-off was yesterday, that could just be the thorn in the side of Gilbert Yates or Andrew Morrow.
Just looking at the way Gilbert Yates is driving today, it just generally looks smoother, doesn't it? It looked as though yesterday I'm not saying he was wrestling with the car, but it just looked a more aggressive driving style yesterday, either down to setup or tyres or whatever, but looked smoother today. And we're still not seeing any drop-off, because through the first third of this lap, Gilbert Yates has just gone absolute best through the first third of the lap. So again, he's pulled away to the tune of another 0.4 of a second just in the first three and a bit corners of this lap. He's just about to break the beam down at the bottom section of the Bentley Straight, and he is again about 1/4 of a second quicker through the middle part of the lap than Andrew Morrow. So the gap should come out by maybe another 1/2 to 3/4 of a second this time through.
You say that, but I think Andrew Morrow is the stronger of the two of them through the third sector, so that is where he minimises the damage caused over the lap to that point. So he might see Gilbert Yates sort of start to pull away, but then he can fight back slightly through sector 3, and Andrew Morrow still has the overall fastest sector 3. But what can Gilbert Yates do in response? Out of the final corner at Maurice, onto the centre straight, and will break the beam once again to go on to what will be his 10th lap of the race already. So over the line he will go. Another fastest lap of the race for Gilbert Yates, 1:53.002. The gap is up to 2.2 of a second, and that's because Andrew Morrow, fastest third sector of anyone so far. Another 2/10 gained, however, from Gilbert Yates.
Yeah, another 2/10 gained, but yeah, Andrew Morrow was 4/10 quicker through the final sector of the laps. You're absolutely right. That's where he seems to be able to claw back some of the deficit that he has to deal with over the first 2/3 of the lap. So Gilbert Yates, Andrew Morrow. Let's not remember that Hamandra Pillai still sits there in 3rd place, but he's still under pressure from Pranav Vangala, who sits there in 4th place in the number 29 car. And 5th and still leading Copa-Shell is Robert Rees, and he still leads it very comfortably at the moment. Gary Redman is 4.4 seconds behind, running in 6th place overall and 2nd in Copa-Shell. But look at the battle for the final spot on the podium. It's still Hamandra Pillai in the pink number 19 car that leads the way and is trying to desperately keep that Jardine Colchester car through and ahead of the HR Owen car that's trying to hunt him down.
Yeah, a flash of the lights from Pranav Vangala as they work their way up towards Agostini. He's not going to return the favour, is he, on the way in? No, not this time, but very close indeed. Pranav Vangala, I think he just got thrown slightly off his rhythm with the incidents earlier on, but he's managed to recollect himself and has really started to close in onto the coattails of Hamandra Pillai. Hamandra Pillai pushing hard in response. The pair of them just pushing the limits on track limits as well, I think, through sector 2, but at the moment Pranav Vangala, all he has to do, again, he's got that time, he's got 11.5 minutes plus the extra lap to assess exactly where he wants to go for that move sideways out of Williams. The body language of the car from Pranav Vangala, he's pushing hard, he wants to get onto that podium. Another flash of the lights, he's trying every trick in the book.
Yeah, 0.2 of a second quicker through the first sector of the lap, and they match each other for pace through the middle part of the lap. Look at the glow on the brake discs as they try to get the cars anchored up for Brundle and for Nelson, but it's still just Hamandra Pillai that hangs on to 3rd position. Pranav Vangala still sitting there in 4th. Remember, the positions got changed as a result of that small amount of contact that happened between the pair of them. And as they turn their way for what is already now the 10th time of asking in towards the braking area for Murray's, the key to this is to be clean on the exit and get a good run onto the centre straight. They are still busy squabbling away, but they have lost a huge amount of time, haven't they, to the leading pair. So we've got this fight for 2nd and 3rd, but they are 26 seconds behind now, the front runners.
Yeah, and I've noticed as well, Andrew Morrow's last lap through 0.6 slower than Gilbert Yates. The lead gap from Gilbert Yates to Andrew Morrow is now up to 2.9 seconds, and now we may see a change further down the order. That's Mike Dewhurst fighting away with Gary Redman. Gary Redman on the outside, he does what he can to defend 2nd place, but Mike Dewhurst, he's up into 2nd in Copa-Shell. Where did that battle all of a sudden arise from?
Yeah, I mean, Mike seemed to, again, have a car that has just got on stronger and stronger and stronger in today's race. It was a bit like yesterday, wasn't he, when he was there or thereabouts, but really made an impression as the race wore on. Well, he's now up to 2nd in Copa-Shell, but he's got a chunk of work to do if he wants to catch the Copa-Shell race leader, which is still Robert Rees. So still this fight for 3rd and for 4th. Still Hamandra Pillai hanging on to it. Pranav Vangala runs a little bit wide heading out of Agostini. You see the brake lights just flash on as they pitch the car in towards Hamilton, and then the next corner is where Hamandra Pillai runs wide and gets some dusty Pirellis as he dips the right-hand wheels off and onto the grass here at Snetterton. They'll soon clean up, but he needs to make sure that he concentrates his efforts on the road ahead, which is the big long straight all the way down the Bentley Straight. We've got 9 minutes plus a little bit of change to go, and of course that extra lap thereafter. We've also got the contact that was made between Hamandra Pillai and Pranav Vangala under investigation at the moment. That is the news that has just reached us in the commentary box.
Yeah, it's great to be able to see these two still fighting as hard as they are, though, even following that contact. And Pranav Vangala, it seems like he falls away in sector 2, even with the small mistake from Hemandra Pillai. But sectors 1 and 3, that's where Pranav Vangala really starts to close in again. So through Coram, the long right-hander, slowly increase that brake pressure and then get the car squared away for the apex at Murray's. Much quicker on the way in was Pranav Vangala. Hemandra Pillai, I think, slightly quicker on the way out. Onto the centre straight they will go and cross the line with around about 8.5 minutes plus that extra lap still to go in this race. But the battle for the final step on the overall and the Trofeo Pirelli podium far from settled.
Yeah, well, Pranav Vangala would desperately like to try and squeeze his way through. He would then, if he could, pick up his 4th podium of the year. But remember, Hemandra Pillai, who currently occupies that final podium spot, has not had a podium so far this year. He's had 3 4th places, but he's not finished on the overall podium as yet.
No, I think that podium is beckoning now, and obviously he wants to do it on the road. Well, hopefully, following official confirmation, he keeps it as well. But sideways was Hemandra Pillai on the way through Palmer's, and that's where we saw the mistake come yesterday for him. But the confidence has not been knocked. He's still pushing harder than ever, is Hemandra Pillai, just to build that gap over Pranav Vangala, and it's slowly starting to work. But those small mistakes that we saw just a lap ago from Hemandra Pillai, eventually one can cost you quite dear, and again pushing so hard on the run through the quick left-hander at Hamilton. And you do that too many times, eventually you catch the attentions of the wrong people and you can very quickly have a penalty go your way. But at the moment, Hemandra Pillai so aggressive on the turn-in at Williams. You can see he's pushing hard to try and get away from Pranav Vangala.
He really is pushing very hard indeed, and it goes to show that he's pushing hard because he has just gone through the first third of the lap quicker than he has previously done. Everybody else is now going slower than they've previously done, largely because, of course, the Pirellis are having a bit more life taken out of them. But that rule has been ripped up by Hemandra Pillai and very much thrown in the bin at the moment. He's slightly slower through the middle sector than he's previously gone, but he could still be on for his best lap of the race so far, potentially, depending on how he gets on through sector 3. So this is where the tyres really take a pounding, don't they, as you continue through the never-ending right-hander at Coram. It really loads up the left-hand side of the car. Look at the glow from the brake discs again as he dives onto the brake and gets the car turned through Murray's corner over the start-finish line. It looks as though the gap between the pair of them is coming out. So the gap was hovering around just under half a second last time through. It's now up to 1.3 seconds from Hemandra Pillai to Pranav Vangala. So the gap from 3rd to 4th going out. The gap from 1st to 2nd, Jack?
Yeah, it's coming down, isn't it? Gilbert Yates last time through, a 1 minute 54.225. Andrew Morrow, a 1 minute 53.947. So 0.3 of a second Andrew Morrow has pulled in on the lap prior. It was around about this point in the race yesterday we saw Gilbert Yates and Andrew Morrow really have to start fighting. But Gilbert Yates has done all that hard work in the early stages of the race. But a 5-second time penalty is going the way of Hemandra Pillai. So now his attentions go from managing that gap to extending it up to those 5 seconds just to hold on to 3rd place. He's got 6 minutes plus 1 lap to do it.
Yeah, that news has just reached us. That news will also have just reached Mikey Broadhurst, who is the driver coach for Hemandra Pillai. And I know what radio communication will be going on now is that Mikey Broadhurst will be on the radio to his driver, Hemandra Pillai, saying, push, push, push. At the moment, you are 1.3 seconds up the road from Pranav Vangala. You've got to get that to 5 seconds plus in the remaining 5 minutes and 40 seconds plus a lap.
Yeah, so that's going to be a big job from Hemandra Pillai. He's going to have to push as hard as he can, but also keep that car within those white lines. Pranav Vangala will be doing everything he can to make that job even harder and just keeping tabs with him. And if they keep running around the way they are, it's going to be a hard job on its own.
Well, Pranav Vangala will have Jamie Stanley, his driver coach, on the radio saying, you've got to keep pushing because we don't want Hemandra Pillai to be more than 5 seconds up the road from you. So, you know, it'll be similar radio conversation going on between driver and pro in each one of those cars.
Yeah, absolutely. And Steve Dobson has just gone through and set his personal fastest lap of the race, which again is something that you don't tend to see this late on in the race. So Steve Dobson still pushing as hard as he can. Again, Hemandra Pillai gets the car anchored up for Murray's at the final corner. On towards the centre straight he will go. Pranav Vangala still giving chase. 1.3 seconds was the gap last time through. This time through, has it come out? I'd say so, yes. 1.6 seconds now, but that's not the average amount of extension that Pranav Vangala or that Hemandra Pillai needs. Hemandra Pillai needs to average around about a second a lap now, maybe more.
Yeah, over the start-finish line. Robert Rees still leading Copa-Shell, but look in his mirrors. Who has just come on stronger and stronger and stronger again today in the race, as he did yesterday? Mike Dewhurst. So Mike Dewhurst has really carved into the advantage that Robert Rees had opened up. Remember, Robert so far this season has had 3 wins in Copa-Shell. Well, Mike Dewhurst has taken 2, and both of those are back-to-back. The second of the 2 races at Alton Park, plus the race yesterday, and he is on course to see if he can replicate what Robert Rees did in the first 3 races of the season, which was claim top honours in Copa-Shell. So it's all not done and dusted at all as yet. And again, it just seems as though Mike Dewhurst, his car is just doing exactly what he wants it to do at this stage of the race, and Robert Rees just seems as though he's struggling a bit more.
Yeah, it's hard to sort of pinpoint exactly where Mike Dewhurst is gaining that time. I think it's just average throughout the race, and he's just set a personal fastest sector 1, and he's now got that visual aid of knowing where Robert Rees is. He's got a physical thing he can put his eye on and go, right, let's just chip away and slowly set visual markers and targets, and he's matching if not meeting them at the moment. 6/10 gained over Copa-Shell class leader Robert Rees over the lap prior, and on this lap it was 1.6 seconds when we broke the beam. I'd say he's within a full second now for Mike Dewhurst. He's pushing on, isn't he?
He is, and he's going to get a bit more of a tow, and through the second sector of the lap he has also just gone quicker than he has previously gone. So Mike Dewhurst potentially on course to set his best lap of the race so far, and he is now fully up onto terms with the Copa-Shell race leader Robert Rees. Now remember, this is for 5th and 6th overall, but more importantly, it is top honours in Copa-Shell. Mike Dewhurst, I don't think will try anything as they come in towards Murray's. We might also have a change for position. Side by side over the start-finish line goes Pranav Vangala and Hemandra Pillai. Hemandra Pillai has the inside line for Ritchie's corner. Pranav Vangala might try and switch back on the exit, and yeah, Hemandra Pillai can't get the car turned in, and all of a sudden that has shuffled the order for those two. Pranav Vangala goes back up into 3rd place. Hemandra Pillai is down into 4th, and we've also had a change just behind those for the lead of Copa-Shell. Mike Dewhurst, I think, made it through, did he not, at Ritchie's corner to pick up the lead in Copa-Shell?
Yeah, brave move from Mike Dewhurst, because as they crossed the line they were 2/10 apart, so it would have been a late move on the brakes, or just slightly earlier on the throttle. Hemandra Pillai pushing hard just to try and get in front of Pranav Vangala on the road. He was sideways on the run through Palmer's, and yes, Mike Dewhurst has taken the lead of Copa-Shell. That leaves Robert Rees now in 2nd place, but as you said, even at the start of the race, Mike Dewhurst's car at the start not quite exactly where I think he would like it, but over time it comes to him, and yes, diving up the inside at Oggy's, or at Ritchie's, pardon me, and Mike Dewhurst into the lead of Copa-Shell. The latter stages of the race, that car starts running just quicker and quicker and quicker, and I think we may have had a moment for Hemandra Pillai again, because he's fallen away even more from Pranav Vangala.
Yeah, it looks as though he has, hasn't he? So Pranav Vangala now in 3rd place on the road. Hemandra Pillai down into 4th place, and remember, even though he's now down in 4th, he's still got that 5-second penalty hanging over him. That does not go away, so on corrected times the gap would be about 6 seconds between the pair of them. We've also got the lead advantage dwindling as well. That's now down to 2.3 seconds, as 3/4 of a second quicker was the charging champion from last year. Number 1, Andrew Morrow, really now is starting to get up onto terms with Gilbert Yates. We haven't got long to go, what, 70 seconds plus an extra lap, but we haven't quite fully decided who's going to claim top honours in the 6th race of the season.
With 2 laps to go, Andrew Morrow, he will know how much time he's got to make up, and Gilbert Yates will know how much time he's got to try and keep his way. But over the line goes Hemandra Pillai, still chasing Pranav Vangala. Of course, the pair of them have swapped around. Hemandra Pillai still has that 5-second penalty, as you say, looming over his head, but Pranav Vangala, he really had to work to try and get that move made up onto the overall podium, and Trofeo Pirelli gone.
Hemandra Pillai sideways going through Ritchie's corner. His car, I think, is struggling a little bit now on the tyres. And Mike Dewhurst clearly has no issues at the lead of Copa-Shell. He has already started to gap a little bit the car that he's just taken the place away from, which is Robert Rees. That's going to certainly tighten up, isn't it, the championship standings in Copa-Shell. 3 back-to-back wins for Mike Dewhurst compared to the first 3 races of the season. It was 3 back-to-back wins for Robert Rees.
Yeah, it's all down to where they finished when the other person was winning, wasn't it? Where Mike Dewhurst was placed when Robert Rees was winning. I think Robert Rees will hold on to the championship lead, but Mike Dewhurst, he's making it a difficult job, isn't he?
Yeah, I mean, the first race of the season at Brands Hatch, Robert Rees finished 6th overall, Mike Dewhurst finished 10th overall, so there's 4-place difference between them in Copa-Shell, so it will still keep Robert Rees in the lead of the championship, but it certainly closes it up. And also for the overall lead in this race, and for the lead in what will be Trofeo Pirelli, that makes it very interesting, doesn't it? Because it means that Gilbert Yates and Andrew Morrow will get even closer to each other in the championship as we head to Donington Park.
Absolutely, with a 4-point gap coming into this race, it'll be something like 1 point heading out of this this weekend, and just going off Gilbert Yates' lap last time through, it was just about quick enough, wasn't it? 2.1 seconds was the margin between himself and Andrew Morrow as we go on to the final lap of the race. And speaking of Brandt Hatch and Robert Rees, his weekend didn't get underway the way he would have liked and had to start from the back of the grid. He still came through to win. What happened at the start of this weekend? He started towards the very tail end of Coperchel, and he still managed to get through into the lead of the class and then still finish second place. Wherever you put Robert Rees, he will carve his way through the order, but now he's got Mike Dewhurst to fight, hasn't he?
He has, yeah. Mike Dewhurst has had a brilliant weekend so far, and it certainly looks as though Gilbert Yates is on for a brilliant end to the weekend. He is literally half a lap away now from victory in the 6th race of the season, our 3rd weekend of racing, and you can see there's still not a great deal of gap, is there, between himself and Andrew Morrow. It came back down by a further 10th last time through, so it's down to 2.1 seconds, but all Gilbert Yates needs to do is not put a wheel wrong, and to be fair, over the course of this weekend, we've only seen one small mistake from Gilbert Yates, and that was up at Ritchie's Corner when he lost the lead yesterday. That's the only chink in the armour. He has been quick and consistent all weekend.
Yeah, and imagine through the night himself, Tom Fleming and the rest of the team have been working hard on trying to figure out how that pace that Gilbert Yates had yesterday can be deployed consistently throughout the race, and clearly they found that sweet spot because Gilbert Yates through Brundle and Nelson for the final time, then in towards the bomb hole. He's controlled this race perfectly. He had a little bit to think about, maybe a spot of water on the lens on the run through the bomb hole, so we might just about get this race done, but into the final corner for the final time, it's going to be Gilbert Yates, and what a brilliant race it's been.
Yep, so onto the brakes, in towards Murray's for the final time. Gilbert Yates missed out on victory yesterday. He is just going to claim a victory today as Andrew Morrow closes even further in the latter stages of this race, but the checkered flag is ready. Gilbert Yates wins the 2nd of our 2 races here at Snetterton this weekend. Andrew Morrow comes through to finish in 2nd position. Pranav Vangala should be there in 3rd place, and 4th place should be Hamandra Pillai, but it's 5th and 6th in the lead of Coperchel now that we still need to keep an eye on, Jack.
We do indeed. Mike Dewhurst and Robert Rees, they've been fighting hard throughout this race, and Mike Dewhurst, I think, has just about managed to get the better of Robert Rees in the very latter stages. Through Coram will come Pranav Vangala, in towards Murray's on the brakes, get the car slowed down, in towards the left-hander, and then it's onto the centre straight for the final time, up through the gearbox, and he will see the checkered flag waiting for him. That will be another 3rd place for Pranav Vangala. Another good haul of points for Pranav as well. It's a good debut season, not only in Ferrari Challenge UK, but in racing outright for Pranav Vangala. Hamandra Pillai, he really fought for that one. He comes home in 4th place overall, 4th in the Trofeo Pirelli class, and then we cast our eyes towards the start of the centre straight. It's Mike Dewhurst that appears first. He will make it 2 from 2 here at Snetterton in the Coperchel class. That car really started to come good come the end of the race, and Mike Dewhurst managing to take Robert Rees from the top step, the provisional top step at the time in Coperchel. So Robert Rees will finish in 2nd place in Coperchel, 6th overall, and Gary Redmond just coming through to take what is 7th place overall and to round out your Coperchel podium. It will be Darren Howell that should appear next. There he is over the line, and he will take 8th place overall, 4th in class, and then we will await the arrival of Stephen Dobson. We have also seen, or already seen, Peter Hunter over the line. He's taken the checkered flag, albeit a lap down with that drive-through penalty. And Stephen Dobson, he's just working his way in towards the final corner once again. He will see the checkered flag being readied, and he will come to the line to finish 9th overall and 5th in the Coperchel class. But Gilbert Yates, with what happened yesterday, I think he felt slightly hard done by, but today what he does manage to do is get a good haul of points and make that championship even closer. We are past the halfway point in the season, and Gilbert Yates, he's not letting Andrew Morrow have any breathing space at all. I think it's only about a point separating the pair of them. Into the pit lane, our top 2 will come. But Mike Dewhurst, he is trying his very best to match Robert Rees. As Mark said, Robert Rees starting his 2024 Ferrari Challenge UK season with 3 back-to-back wins. What's happened since then? Mike Dewhurst has done it too for Dick Lovett Swindon in Coperchel. So the number 78 machine is coming good the deeper we get into the season. It's giving Robert Rees something to think about as well as we prepare ourselves for the future rounds on the way. A flash of the lights from Mike Dewhurst. He's clearly over the moon with the way his weekend has now gone. Gilbert Yates gets out of the car, embraces Tom Fleming, his pro driver coach. Tom obviously still recovering from an incident at Misano, and Still just chatting away with his team even now. I'm sure Gilbert Yates is over the moon, and elation with the team as well. A smile visually you can see through the gap in his helmet. He is happy with that. I think that will make this weekend leave a good taste in his mouth compared to the sour taste that may have been left last night. But off comes the hands device and off comes the helmet. Mike Dewhurst picking his way through Murray's, and he will work his way into the pit lane. I'm sure he will be very, very happy indeed, will Mike Dewhurst. And he will feel that all momentum is with him now. He's just got to keep that momentum going his way. Andrew Morrow jumps out of his car and is having a quick chat to his team, and I'm sure he felt he was getting quicker towards the end of the race, and on paper he was. 2.2 seconds was the lead gap going on to the final lap. Come the checkered flag, it was 0.6 of a second, so Andrew Morrow really started to close in on Gilbert Yates in the very latter stages of the race, but it just wasn't quite enough for Andrew to try and get back onto the top step. And of course, in terms of momentum, as we say, in theory, it is now going the way of Gilbert Yates with that win here. 17 laps completed. Gilbert Yates takes the outright and Trofeo Pirelli win. It is then Andrew Morrow that will join him on the podium in second place, both drivers from Charles Hurst. Pranav Vangala rounds out your overall Trofeo Pirelli podium. Hemendra Pillai finishes fourth overall and fourth in Trofeo Pirelli. Mike Dewhurst, your Copa-Shell winner, chased home by Robert Rees, finishing second in Copa-Shell, sixth overall. And Gary Redman rounds out your Copa-Shell podium in seventh. Then it's Darren Howell in eighth, Stephen Dobson in ninth, and Peter Hunter down in 10th place. Let's have an even closer look at our top three. So working into this race, we had an idea on who might finish where, but you can see the number 22 machine, that's Gary Redman. He finished third in the Copa-Shell class. Robert Rees, he led from the off in Copa-Shell. He had to fight for it come the end, but second place was what Robert Rees was able to walk away with in race 2 of the weekend here at Snetterton, the 6th race of the season. However, top honours in Copa-Shell went the way of the number 78 Dick Lovett-Swindon entry of Mike Dewhurst. In terms of Trofeo Pirelli, it was Pranav Vangala that finished in third place overall, and he had to fight for it as well, didn't he? A small incident halfway through the race with Hemendra Pillai, but fought back valiantly. Andrew Morrow, he was there or thereabouts and started to get quicker towards the end of the race, just didn't quite have enough. He could finish second overall and second in Trofeo Pirelli class, and then it was Gilbert Yates today picking up first place overall and first in Trofeo Pirelli. But Mark, down to you in the pit lane.
Thank you very much, Jack. Yeah, we've got our race winner of the 6th race of the season, Gilbert Yates, alongside me. Gilbert, congratulations, a race win, and you just kept Andrew Morrow where you needed him to be.
Exactly, yeah. I mean, yesterday was tough because the tyres went off, so today we had a different strategy. We got a gap that we're safe with, and then we managed to gap throughout the race to manage the tyres.
Was that strategy either different tyre pressures or different setup or different driving, or just a combination of factors?
Combination of factors, but mainly it was driving. It was just managing the car, managing the tyres, managing the brakes, overheating, and then when I got a comfortable gap, that's what we managed. We didn't push, we just managed the gap.
Means that the championship's still going to be very tight as we head to the next weekend at Donington Park.
Exactly, and Donington's one of my favourite tracks and Silverstone, so I'll be comfortable going there.
Great way to end the weekend, well done.
Yeah, thank you very much.
There we go, so that's our race winner, which is Gilbert Yates. Let's send you back upstairs to Jack, and we'll go and find our winner of Copa-Shell, Mike Dewhurst, and have a quick chat to him.
Brilliant, cheers Mark. Great to hear from Gilbert Yates. Let's have a look back at how race 2 of the weekend unfolded. Gilbert Yates from pole position. He managed to hold on to the lead in towards turn 1 and held it as long as he could. Just tried to pull away from the car of Andrew Morrow behind. Peter Hunter and Darren Howell coming together in the very early stages of the race. Peter Hunter drawing the short straw there and picking up a penalty as the cause of that contact. But he was fighting away right the way up until that point with the other cars around him. However, a small mistake, potentially a puncture of his Pirelli tyre, and it meant that he had to dive into the pit lane as well just to get that looked at. Pranav Vangala and Hemendra Pillai came together, fighting away for third place overall, third in Trofeo Pirelli, and that, if anything, just ignited the battle even more. Darren Howell and Mike Dewhurst starting to fight away. Darren Howell, of course, starting the only car on brand new sticker Pirelli slick tyres. Darren Howell immediately fought back on Mike Dewhurst, the pair of them sparring away for a number of laps, and we did see Pranav Vangala as well trying to fight his way through and past Robert Rees, as the incident allowed Robert Rees just to pick his way through. He was into third place overall for a short while. Mike Dewhurst then very quickly caught on to the coattails of the number 22 machine of Gary Redman. He was fighting away. Hemendra Pillai doing what he can to pull away from Pranav Vangala, but unfortunately it wasn't enough. Pranav Vangala nipping his way up the inside at turn 1, and he stayed there for the rest of the race. Then this is where we saw the change in the Copa-Shell race lead, all the way up the inside, the number 78 machine of Mike Dewhurst. He did manage to pick the pocket of Robert Rees, but Robert Rees did everything he could to hang on. Andrew Morrow trying everything he can. It wasn't enough to see the checkered flag first. It was Gilbert Yates. Andrew Morrow crossed the line in second, and it was Pranav Vangala that crossed the line in third. In Coperchel, it was Mike Dewhurst from Robert Rees from Gary Redman. What a brilliant race it was. But Mike, I hear you've got another driver down in the pit lane.
Yeah, I've got the winner of Coperchel, 3 times winner on the trot now. It's 3 for Robert at the beginning of the season, 3 for you, Mike. You had work to do.
Yeah, we had a really poor start, and I was behind Gary at the start, and he got boxed in, and then he backed me up, and people were going around the outside. So I ended up, I'm not sure, about 5th at the start, and then hard work getting past some of the drivers were driving really well. So it's hard work getting past them. Took me a few laps to get past the first one, and then I just carried on building the pace. But yeah, hard work, a lot of overtaking to do, a lot of racing to do. It was great.
You hunted down Robert, and then the move to take the lead in Coperchel up the inside at Ritchie's. That's a brave move, because that's a quick corner.
Yeah, I'd had 2 goes at that before, practice twice on the other drivers. So unexpected place to pass. I was unexpectedly carrying a lot more speed through the last corner, carrying loads of speed onto the straight. So yeah, my favoured today overtaking spot, whereas yesterday there was no chance there. It was all on the hairpin. So really good.
Well done, clean sweep at Snetterton. Head to the podium.
Thank you very much. Cheers.
There we go. So that's our winner in what is Coperchel. We'll be heading to the podium shortly, but before we do that, let's go back upstairs to the commentary box and Jack.
Amazing. Cheers, Mark. Great to hear from Mike Dewhurst. And yeah, you can see just not only over today, but over the weekend how the circuit has evolved. Mike Dewhurst clearly having to change his driving style and trust that the car will grip on the run in towards turn 1. And it worked for him today, walking away with the race win as the drivers are working their way towards the podium. We can just sort of cast our minds back as to how this weekend has unfolded. It was the halfway point in the season yesterday after race 1 finished. Yesterday we were officially at that halfway point. Race 2 of the weekend has got underway and now completed. We're closing in on the very latter stages of the season now. We go to Bonington Park on the 20th and 21st of July. So it's, in theory, the slate is wiped clean. So that just means that it's now down to what the drivers can do between now and then. But I hear the podium is ready, and Amanda is down there as well.
Well, we are ready here at the podium for round 3, race 2 from Snetterton. And we're going to start with our Trofeo Pirelli drivers who are all ready. So, in 3rd position, can I have a big round of applause for the driver who fought valiantly all the way through, Pranav Vangala. In 2nd place, yesterday was the winner. Today has to second with the 2nd place on the podium. It is Andrew Morrow. And our race winner, who led all the way from the front, a big round of applause, Gilbert Yates. And would a dealer representative from Charleshurst like to go and join them? Well done. Right. We have trophies today presented by Federico Pastorelli, the Ferrari North Europe Regional Manager. First of all, 3rd position trophy to Pranav Vangala. Well done. 2nd place, it's Andrew Morrow. And our race winner, Gilbert Yates. A happy man indeed, as is the Charleshurst representative. Right, guys, well done. And we have the Pirelli trophy being handed over now to Jonathan Wells, the Pirelli UK Motorsport Manager as well. Congratulations. Right, a photograph from our podium position drivers. And as they smile sweetly with their spoils, we're all going to take a step back because now it's time for the champagne. Poor old Gilbert got a face full of it there. I think you deserved it, Gilbert. What a sweet moment. Oh my goodness, I can smell it. And the rain is coming down too. But Gilbert, yeah, definitely got a face full. It is going to be sweet tasting champagne for him, because I know that after yesterday, he really struggled with the setup of his car, keeping the grip, keeping his tyres, and was very happy with today. Gilbert, look at his face. Have you got champagne in your eyes? You got
Too much champagne, yeah.
too much champagne. You got a face full of it. But listen, well done.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Lovely to see you smiling. Right, we're going to move on now to the Copa Shell Trophy. So could I ask the third place driver, Gary Redman, to make his way? Gary started in pole position, couldn't quite translate that into a race win. Second place, Robert Rees. Get ready, Robert. A popular man, almost taking the spoils there, but the race winner for the second time this weekend, it is Mike Dewhurst. And would a Dick Lovett Swindon representative like to go and join him? There we go. And the trophies for this are presented by Lilo Wadu, the Ferrari factory driver who's with us all weekend, and she's making her way to third place driver Gary Redman. And second place, Robert Rees. Yay! Happy man. And finally, the race winner for the trophy, the Shell Trophy winner. Well done, Mike Dewhurst, and of course the dealer trophy to Dick Lovett Swindon. Right, photographs for these guys. And of course that's it, more photographs. And we are all getting ready for the moment when the champagne is going to flow. Some more happy drivers there. And here we go, it is the champagne. Well, whilst these guys, these absolute children, are busy spraying themselves with champagne, getting sticky, but enjoying the moment, let's go back to Jack in the commentary box.
Thank you, Amanda, down at the podium, and the champagne, well, it really was flying at the end of this weekend. But this is how the championship looks coming out of this weekend. Gilbert Yates' win in race 2 of the weekend has drawn him absolutely level with Andrew Morrow. The pair of them on 69 points, 10 points back is Pranav Bangala, Amandra Pillai, only a couple of points, about 26 points away from the championship lead in 4th. And it's Tom Fleming, who hasn't made an appearance since Brands Hatch, and John Dillon and AJ Litt, unfortunately not here this weekend, remain on 21 and 17 points, respectively, in Trofeo Pirelli. How does the championship look in Copa Shell? I'd imagine it's got closer still. Absolutely, only 11 points separating Robert Rees's 88 points to Mike Dewhurst's 77. But Robert Rees, with those consistent finishes whilst he's not been winning, means that he holds on to the championship lead from Gary Redman on 54 points, who have swapped around with Peter Hunter, who is now on 48. Stephen Dobson is on 43 points, and Darren Howell in 6th in the championship on 38. But what an amazing weekend it has been here at Snetterton on the 300 layout, round 3 of the Ferrari Challenge Trofeo Pirelli UK for 2024. We've seen action from start to finish, 2 free practice sessions, 2 qualifying sessions, and 2 races as well. We go to Donington Park on the 20th and the 21st of July, so please do join us there as well. But from myself, Jack Burrell in the commentary box, joined by Mark Rowell throughout this weekend, and the amazing work from Amanda Stretton down in the pit lane and on the grid, we hope to see you all very soon. We hope to see you at Donington Park in a few weeks' time. But until then,
So the lights are extinguished on the safety car, neat 2x2 order. The safety car will peel its way right into the pit lane, and we're about to unleash the challenge competitors. 670 brake horsepower per car in these 488 Evo Spec cars. The red car with the day-glow yellow flashes is the pole sitter, which is Gilbert Yates. The number 1 car that sits alongside him is the reigning champion Andrew Morrow, and it's the green car of Pranav Vangala and the pink car of Hemendra Pillai that line up on the second row of the grid. The lights are on the gantry, half an hour plus 1 extra lap, and we get round 6 of the championship underway. And as they head up towards Ritchie's for the first time, Gilbert Yates has the all-important inside line and should go through to pick up the lead of the race, with Andrew Morrow in second place, Pranav Vangala in third, Hemendra Pillai in fourth, and up to the early lead in Copa Shell, it's the blue car of Robert Rees again, who's had another blistering start, just like yesterday.
Yeah, brilliant start from Robert Rees. He was fighting away with Hemendra Pillai, but all the way around the outside. Darren Howell, what an amazing start he's had, of course, on those fresh sticker Pirelli tyres. He's immediately fighting away with Peter Hunter. Slight contact between the pair of them. That will be for second place in Copa Shell. Darren Howell on an absolute charge from the very back row of the grid. On the exit of Palmer, they draw absolutely level. It will be Darren Howell on the extreme left-hand side of the circuit, Peter Hunter on the extreme right, but the inside will go the way of Darren Howell up into second place from 10th.
You see just deranged wing mirrors a little bit as they made a very slight amount of contact between the pair of them, but Darren Howell, on those brand new tyres that he didn't utilise in qualifying, is out of the blocks quickly here and is ahead of Peter Hunter and Gary Redman, the pole sitter in Copa Shell, who's dropped to something like 4th in Copa Shell. He's got Mike Dewhurst not that far behind him. So they start to stretch their legs out of Oggies and up towards Williams, one of the most important corners on the circuit. Get quickly out of Williams, carry all of that speed along the Bentley straight. So for Darren Howell, he will try and break the toe on Peter Hunter, who's trying to break the toe on Gary Redman, who's looking to try and get the overlap and sneak up the inside. The number 22 draws himself alongside the Stratstone Manchester car, should have the inside line knowing to get up towards Brundle, and then it will give him the outside line when to get towards Nelson, and Gary Redman has made it through. He is through and ahead of the silver number 82 car of Peter Hunter.
Yeah, Gary Redman doing what he can to, I think, minimise the damage of the first lap, and Peter Hunter spins through 180 degrees, avoided